Welcome back to Pages of the Heart. I'm Cassidy, and together with my friend Hope, we're diving into Chapter 6 of Josie Riviera's A Winter Promise, The Weight of Winter. Traditional craftsmanship versus mass production. It's a debate as old as the Industrial Revolution. But what happens when creating something by hand becomes an act of healing that transforms an entire community?
That's such a fascinating angle to explore, especially when you consider how handcrafted items still command premium prices in today's market. People are willing to pay up to 300% more for artisanal pieces.
The story we're examining today really brings this to life through a woodworker's journey from seeking recognition to discovering the deeper purpose of his craft. It's particularly relevant given that the artisanal goods market has grown by 45% in the last 5 years.
The way it opens in that cozy domestic setting really draws you in. The aroma of stew and roasted potatoes creating this perfect backdrop for transformation.
You know what's interesting? Studies show that sensory details like food aromas can trigger memory formation up to 40% more effectively than visual cues alone. So these domestic scenes aren't just decorative, they're actually helping cement the story's emotional impact.
Well, that explains why the workshop scenes feel so vivid. The description of wood grain, the sound of tools, the smell of sawdust. It's like we're right there watching this artistic resurrection unfold.
Speaking of artistic resurrection, let's talk about that rocking chair reveal. The detail of woodland creatures carved into the arms, foxes watching over rabbits. It's this beautiful metaphor for protection that speaks to something deeper in our collective consciousness.
Hmm. It reminds me of how traditional craftsmen often incorporated symbolic elements into their work. Historical records show that furniture makers in the 1800s would frequently include protective symbols in their pieces.
That's exactly what makes this story so relevant to our modern context. It's about preserving these meaningful traditions while finding ways to adapt to changing times. Recent surveys show that 67% of consumers under 40 actually prefer products that combine traditional craftsmanship with contemporary function.
The way the story handles the tension between tradition and progress is so nuanced. It's not taking an extreme position against modernization.
Well, that's what makes it feel so authentic. There's fascinating research showing that businesses maintaining traditional craftsmanship alongside modern methods are actually 23% more likely to survive long term than those that fully automate.
So, if we look at the larger implications, what does this suggest about finding balance in our rapidly changing world?
The data points to something really interesting. While automation has increased productivity by 400% in some industries, there's been a parallel 180% growth in demand for handcrafted goods. It's like we're collectively seeking something that machines can't replicate.
The spiritual elements woven throughout really underscore that human need for meaning beyond mere efficiency.
And here's what's fascinating about that. Psychological studies indicate that people who regularly interact with handcrafted objects report 35% higher levels of emotional well being compared to those surrounded primarily by mass produced items.
The way the narrative handles redemption through craftsmanship really speaks to that deeper human need for meaningful work.
Recent research in occupational therapy has shown that working with natural materials like wood can reduce stress levels by up to 45% and improve cognitive function by 28%. It's like our bodies remember this connection to traditional crafts.
That really adds another layer to understanding why these traditional skills matter beyond just preserving history.
Looking at market trends, there's been a 250% increase in apprenticeship programs for traditional crafts over the last decade. People are actively seeking out these connections to older ways of making things.
The story really captures that yearning for authentic creation and meaningful work that seems to be growing in our digital age.
Well, what's particularly striking is how this mirrors broader societal shifts. Studies show that 72% of millennials value experiences and meaningful connections over material possessions. Yet they're willing to pay premium prices for artisanal goods that carry stories and tradition.
The emphasis on service rather than recognition really challenges our modern notions of success, doesn't it?
Absolutely fascinating point. Research indicates that craftspeople who focus on community service rather than commercial success report 40% higher job satisfaction and maintain their practices an average of 12 years longer.
That really brings home the message about finding purpose through serving others rather than seeking recognition.
And as we wrap up, here's something to consider. While mass production has increased global access to goods by 1,000%, the market for handcrafted items continues to grow at 15% annually. Maybe we're finally finding that sweet spot between progress and preservation. Thanks for joining us on Pages of the Heart. Be sure to follow us and subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's chapter, a quick rating or review goes a long way in helping more listeners find us. Until next time, thanks for listening.